Welcome back to Heroes Next Door. Thank you for joining us. We are doing another Bay Watch. This is the second in the series. We're going to be talking to Montgomery Township Fire Department and what their bay is all about. So let's go take a look. So we're meeting up with Anthony today. He's one of the firefighters. If you haven't met him yet, he's been in 2 of our other videos. He's going to walk us through this Apparatus bay.
How you doing?
Good to see you again.
You too. You too.
Thank you for taking your time out of your day and talking through this.
No problem.
So this series for us is a new series. It's called Bay Watch. And what we're trying to do is get to understand on how the Apparatus Bay is the tradition of a lot of firehouses. How did they come about? What were they, whether they were barns back in the day, whether they're brand new Apparatus Bay designed for this. We want to know more about these bays and what you bring in them.
Sure. So our Apparatus Bay was actually originally the Public Works garage.
Okay.
So as far as, thinking about the Apparatus Bay and its layout, there really wasn't much thinking because we kind of just took over the building back in the 70s.
Okay.
Well, in the 70s, it was a Public Works building. And then when we took it over, throughout that time up until the 2000s and 2002 when we were founded, the Fire Department of Montgomery Township, is really when we started to have to think about, all right, what are we going to do on this side of the building once we start to expand.
So you pretty much knocked out a wall and added on to what needs to be
Exactly.
going on. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it wasn't until 2008 where we really made a lot of major renovations and truly tried to make it like a firehouse.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why, as we walk around, I notice some of your gear is on the wall versus in its own separate room. Because I think in 2010 they changed a lot of the specs through the NFPA to say these are supposed to be in separate rooms. You have to have air handlers and all kinds of stuff. You guys were before all that happened.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And like the whole negative pressure thing with the carcinogens and so that was. We were all before that, so I'm sure later down the way, line and.
But what's interesting is how did you guys adapt, and that's what we want to really talk about.
Yeah.
How did you get your gear out here? What are the different things? Maybe do you have plume events? Do you have different ways to deal with the stuff, even though you couldn't tear it down and build over? How are you all doing that?
Yeah. So we have Plime events. Obviously, that's a whole in the world. Our world in the fire department, right? We want to make sure that we're minimizing our cancer risk because obviously we have a very high chance of getting cancer just in doing what we do. And studies have shown that pumping CO into the engine bays probably isn't a great thing for cancer. So those vent systems, basically suck out or attach to the exhaust, suck out the CO and pump it out of the building.
Hi, I'm Kevin Heffernan, and I'm Steve Lemmy, and we're on the set of our show Tacoma FD. And when we were building our fake fire station, we realized we needed some real stuff to keep us safe.
See this engine? The diesel exhaust that comes out of it isn't good for you.
And it stinks.
That's why we installed a Plymevent vehicle exhaust extraction system. Plymevent already protects the health of hundreds of thousands of firefighters around the world by removing exhaust emissions and eliminating the hazard.
So, if your station doesn't have one, get one.
So we're trying to adapt with what we have, and we've made some improvements, and we'll go through the engine bay and kind of show you those improvements.
Okay, I'll follow you. So as we walk down here, I noticed right away, it looks like you just basically got concrete flooring.
Exactly. So it was the existing flooring. I think it was like a reddish pink color or something like that. That's what the chief says. This is just basically paint to make it a little bit more presentable.
Right.
Obviously, it's cracking in some spots. It's got some chipping. That's actually in the Chiefs' plan upcoming here in the next couple of years to actually refinish the engine bay floor to kind of make it more durable. And
what people don't realize is the weight of these vehicles. Some of these cracks are not because the building was built bad. It was basically wasn't built for the size vehicles that you're putting into it.
Yeah.
You think about a township building, they're doing pickup trucks, maybe a dump truck or two, but nothing like we're carrying today, and the in and outs that we have today.
Yeah.
So, it makes a big difference. And flooring, I've seen a lot of different things out there. You have a lot of different options nowadays. You have the rubber flooring that you can put over it. You have epoxy sealants that you can put over it. And then also, the different drain systems. Is it the front versus the back and what's in the middle?
Yeah.
But you guys, hey, I got what I got, I'm going to deal with it and go from there.
Yeah, and like you mentioned the drainage things, like there's only one, there's a grate down there from where we came from, and then there's one under the tower. And so it kind of makes, washing the trucks a kind of pain in the butt because you got to push everything to this 1 foot by 1 foot drain. whereas a lot of the newer stations have like the drain that runs the length of the bay. So, like I said, we work with what we have. Obviously, the refinishing the floor is a costly project.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah.
all about budgeting and planning for that in the future.
I've been at a couple firehouses where they've done it every 4 to 10 years, in between because of the weight and the turning of the wheels and all kinds of other stuff. You guys are really making this look good. I just want to say, for what it is and that you guys converted it over. Yeah, it's got a crack or two, but this looks nice.
Yeah, I mean we try and maintain it. There was a couple more significant cracks that our public works department helped us patch up with some new concrete, and we have a floor scrubber. So at least once a week we're out here scrubbing the floors, trying to make the place look presentable. But
maintenance
again,
is a
back
big key.
to one of the other videos is pride, right? We want to make sure the place looks presentable when we have guests come into the firehouse.
So looking presentable, look at these. These are actually very nice lockers, for lack of a better term. Do you have like paid side versus volunteer side?
Yeah, so we have, this entire wall is all volunteers. And then on that wall, we have the fire police unit, which is volunteers as well. But we also have a small section for the career staff, in addition to all the part-time career staff, which is up front, and all their gear is in bags placed on another rack. Just because we have quite a few part-time firefighters.
And the fact that these are industrial-made racks, it makes it look really nice and clean. Not saying that us as firemen, we have a lot of trades. I'm a mechanic. I have a friend that's an electrician. I have another one that's a carpenter. We can make a lot of this stuff. I like to do welding. I can probably make this, but to have this so uniformed and buy maybe a product can make a real big difference on how clean your firehouse looks.
Yeah, and uniformity is one of the big things, not only in the engine bay, but, as far as uniforms and stuff like that. So, like we talked about, pride is a big thing, and, uniformity is part of that pride, making sure, like the paint schemes, trying to make, obviously the two trucks are different now, but with the new incoming apparatus, they're all going to be identical.
Right.
So it'll look nice.
Let's take just a second and talk about the trucks. What trucks do you have here?
So right here we have Squad 18 to 2016 Pierce.
Okay.
And then we have Tower 18, which is a 2022 Spartan.
Okay, so these are your two workhorse vehicles.
Yeah. So the Tower is out of this station, the Squad is first out on almost every single type of response. The majority of the time the Tower leaves the station is for mutual aid responses, as either a second due or third due aerial. During the day, we run the Squad first out. At night, when the stipend shifts here, they run the Squad first out. If it's something more significant, like a building fire or something like that, people responding from home will take the Tower out as a second out piece.
Okay. I noticed that you have a couple support vehicles too. What do you got here?
So on the other side of the Tower, we have our special service, which is primarily our fire marshal vehicle.
Okay.
So within that, we have one guy who rides that during the day. So we have one guy in that, 4 guys on the Squad.
Okay.
The guy in the special service, basically he can go out and do inspections. He can do some follow-ups. He can any sort of other projects that he has going on. We also have a drone in there. Yeah. So we have a TV that's mounted in there.
Okay.
So if we got to fly the drone for to help the police with accident pit photos or videos or fire scene, whatever, we can hook up, plug in our laptop to that screen, and we can see what the drone's seeing. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more firehouses have drone programs, and they're being very useful, whether checking for hot spots on a brush fire or, like you said, accident reconstruction.
Yeah. So it's been an excellent tool, really cool tool, because none of us had really had any exposure to that, and then we went and took the Part 107 course and have become immersed in it. So it's pretty neat.
That's good.
But the other major function is it has all our fire investigation tools. So that's the primary purpose of the special service there.
Yeah.
Many functions.
Yeah, right. And then you have a traffic unit.
Yeah, so this unit's only responsibility is for traffic control. This is our fire police's primary vehicle, and they respond from home. They pile in the fire police vehicle, and off they go to direct traffic.
Now, around my firehouse, a lot of the guys that are the fire police are more of the older ones, are getting, maybe they can't go in the buildings anymore, and they still want to participate. They can come and do a lot of the fire police.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. It's definitely an older crew, but we definitely have some younger guys who are interested in it as well. Maybe some people who don't want to necessarily do the firefighting stuff, but still want to give back to the community, and it's a way to It's a way to contribute to the organization. But I know the police really appreciates the work that they do. That way they're not stuck standing on the side of the road directing traffic. So.
Right. Now I noticed this is actually a pretty large, engine bay or apparatus bay, and it looks like it has pull-throughs.
Yep.
Do you use them as pull-throughs?
So we
why
don't.
Or why not?
Simply put, no, we
Okay.
don't. We have it's nice to have the capability because there have been times where, especially when we're repaving, like we just repaved the front ramp, we were able to just flip the squad around, put it here, put the tower, there, and we're perfectly fine because these, the two special services and the chief's car, they can be parked in the parking lot. But it's nice to be able to keep them out of the elements. So the traffic is always parked here. So obviously we're not pulling through with the special service, and then either John or the chief is always parked there. So it's a nice option to have. We also have parking blocks.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of them, even the ones that have really long engine bays. Now, our last Baywatch, they had a really long one, and they don't even use it as a pull-through. A couple of reasons that we found because of that is because if you have the tower behind an engine, but yet you got a tower call, you got a do-si-do stuff.
Sure.
So yeah, it's good to have in theory, but it's not always functionable.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why a lot of people don't use them as pull-throughs. But like you said, the option is good. Maybe I want to do a wash of a truck or I want to switch something off. I can pull that parking block out of the way, flip it around, do what I need to do, and put it back in service.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now you do have a side room over here. Is this also an add-on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
This is your engineer's room, right?
Yeah, so it was converted into basically extra storage. If we got to do some minor repairs, we have a workbench, a full complement of tools.
Right.
So,
Okay.
we have a bunch of guys that are pretty handy. So if we get a burnout light bulb or
Right.
just minor stuff.
And that's one thing that in the Firehouse, we're the jack of all trades,
Yeah.
master of many.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy having engine bays that have the capability to do our own work, whether it's working on the vehicles or maybe in my spare time. I'm at the Firehouse and I have a little project. I need to build a new crib for my baby. I have the option to do that kind of stuff. It's cool seeing those kind of things attached to Firehouses.
Yeah, and I mean we try and we create some of our own training props, some real basic stuff. All of us have gone through the Trench 1006 program as well as the confined space and collapse. So we try and build props to continue the training with that. Whether it's building T-spot shores or stupid, just little things like that where we have the ability to cut some 4x4s down or any little projects that we may have.
Right. I noticed that one of the stations we went to, they are actually rebuilding one of their old fire engines. They had it like in 1930s that the crew on their off time when they're not taking calls, using an engineer's room and one of the bays was rebuilding a fire truck.
That's cool.
You got some grill here too?
Yeah, so we were very fortunate in that actually got donated to us, and we utilize it quite a bit. So whether it's cooking breakfast in the morning or cooking chicken and stuff for lunch, we try and use the Blackstone as much as possible.
Yeah, I love cooking on the Blackstone.
Especially this time of year with the spring, open up all the bay doors, cook some lunch. It's awesome.
That's the other thing I noticed. You have a table out here, and both doors can open up, so you get a nice cross breeze out here. It's a good place to hang out.
Yeah, especially towards the end of the day when the shift's winding down, and especially if it's been a busy day and we're running from call to call. Unlike today, we haven't turned a wheel, but. It's nice to decompress and kind of talk about the day. If we had any calls or went to any fires, talk about the fires, and it's camaraderie. I mean, it's the fire. The fire.
That's really what it's all about. It's that
so
brother and sisterhood that we get when we join a firehouse. We become a volunteer or even paid service. We're spending a lot of time together. We're spending sometimes 24 hours together, 72 hours depending on the shifts, and having a place to sit down and talk and having a table. To do a little project or maybe do my homework or something like that is actually very nice to have.
Yeah, and folks who aren't in the fire service will never truly understand what the engine bay, table and talks really mean.
Right. 'Cause realistically, engine bays or apparatus bays, whatever you call it, and I put it out there on my last video. What do you call it across the country? Is it an engine bay, apparatus bay floor, whatever it is? They all are the core of most firehouses. They are the places where when you do respond from home, this is where you're coming to get the truck. Or when you are hanging out here, we're hanging out here most of the time and enjoying the weather as best we can. And I can get from there to here much quicker than out in the back of a bunk room or somewhere else like that. I kind of got distracted when we were talking because above me, looks like you got a boat too.
Yeah, so that is a, I guess the technical term is a raft.
Okay.
Because it doesn't have a motor.
Okay.
But no, we don't get too much flooding here in Montgomery. You know, every couple years when we get the big, you know, hurricane or flash flood event, we have a couple problem areas in town. So all our guys are minimum WRER certified, where we can do walkouts and stuff like that. Most guys are advanced lines technicians, so if need be, we can go out and get somebody.
Nice.
But we don't have a motor for the boat, so
No, it's a raft.
yeah. But
It's a good way to store it, though.
to perform walkouts, and
Yeah.
you know, if you got a couple people trapped in a car, you can throw them in the boat as opposed to them walking through the, you know,
Right.
disgusting water. And it's something for us to hold on to.
Right.
You know.
And that is utilizing every space in an apparatus bay.
Yeah, we had to get creative with some of the pulleys and the rope there to
Right.
keep it up there, but it stayed. So.
Well, you are rope rescue certified.
yeah. Training's good for something, right?
Anthony, thank you so much for taking us around. I know this is a short episode of Bay Watch, but you know, it's not a big bay. It's something that, you know, we do want to talk about and create its own episode because we want to get to the heart of what fire, EMS, and police services are about, and it all starts right here.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. We really
you.
appreciate it.
Yep.
Once again, this was Bay Watch with Heroes Next Door. Thank you all for watching. Before we end, hit subscribe, hit notification, smash those like buttons, make a comment below. Maybe we want to come see you. You want to do me a favor and send me an email at watchheroesnextdoor@gmail.com, and we'll come see you next time. Thank you all for watching. Stay safe. Take care of each other. See you again next week.